Hello everyone around the world and welcome to the Vision SCC Global Final. My name is Rocky Guo and I am the founder and CEO of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition. We are extremely thrilled to have finally reached this moment where the winners of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition will be eventually unveiled at this global grand festival of automotive design. And it is our privilege to share this fantastic moment with every single one of you right now. So, what is Vision SCC? Vision SCC is a global automotive design competition that gathers designers and students around the world to design the ultimate hypercar of the future. We are extremely honored to have legendary designer Frank Stephenson, who was renowned as one of the most influential designers in the world, as the grand judge of our competition. With a career that spans decades and a portfolio that includes some of the most iconic vehicles, Frank is not only a designer, he is the creator of the dreams on the wheels. As the former design director of Ferrari, McLaren, and Maserati, Frank was responsible for shaping the designs of numerous stunning supercars and hypercars, including the McLaren P1, Ferrari FXX, and Maserati MC12. Through his design, he has captured the spirit of nature and velocity. Combined them together, he created the speed machines with a living heart. Man, I love the P1 and the MC12. Yet, beyond the field of hypercars and supercars, Frank has also designed the numerous cars that we could see on the road every day, including the Mini Cooper, the BMW X5, and the Fiat 500. His designs have deeply changed the world we live in. He is a true legend. Throughout this epic journey of our competition, we made a tremendous amount of progress. In mid-August this year, we produced and released our exclusive interview with Frank Stephenson, and kindly asking some of the most popular and trendy, but also the toughest question in the world of automotive design today, including the rise of AI, design innovation, education, and a numerous amount of topics that are both exciting and inspiring. We have also collaborated with the best model car manufacturer in the world, the Amagon Collection, who produce the most sophisticated scale models for brands like Ferrari and McLaren. And together, we are dedicated to creating the best festival in the world of automotive design of all time. However, the most exhilarating milestones came from you. Every single one of you who follow our competition, who stood with us through this incredible journey. From passionate designers to industrial leaders, together we push the boundaries of automotive design and make the world a better place. And for that reason, our deepest gratitude goes for you. Your uncompromising support is the fuel that drives us where we are today. And together, we created a notable impact in the field of automotive design. Speaking of impact, let's take a look towards our vision. In Vision SCC, we are dedicated to promote positive impact towards the society and make the future of automotive design industry more sustainable. At the very beginning of our competition, we launched a global initiative called the Program 0C. As the name Zero Carbon suggests, Vision SCC Global Design Competition challenged designers to apply advanced clean powertrain technologies that will create zero carbon emissions throughout the process. Take a few examples. Alfie Lowe's Project H that utilizes hydrogen fuel engine to power a clean world. First in XXI to redefine sustainable motorsport with its renewable fuel system. And Yehong's advanced magnetic propulsion represents a leap towards the future of transport. These are not just the hypercar of the future. They are the drives for us towards a truly green future. Yet, beyond the field of automotive design, we believe our competition serves a greater purpose. we started to think about the question of how we could help the individuals and bring them a better future through our competition. And for that purpose, we initiated a program called the Design for Devotion. Design for Devotion is a charitable initiative that will utilize every resource we have to help and devote others beyond automotive design. Earlier this year, we made a great decision that we will auction the NFTs of the finalist designs and donate all the proceeds to support autism research. Unlike most of the design competitions from car manufacturers and design studios that utilizes competition for commercial purposes, we are willing to donate everything we gain from our competition to charity. This will not only benefit the world of automotive design, the designers, but also shape a better future for the autistic group and population. And we will make the world a better place through design. In reference to design, let's take a look towards all of the wonderful designers who put a dedication towards our competition. The Vision SCC Global Design Competition has attracted the brightest new generation designers and visionary students worldwide, challenging themselves to redefine the future of automotive design. After receiving a numerous amount of entries all across 11 different countries, we are extremely thrilled to announce our shortlisted top 25 designs who dare to push the boundaries of automotive design and shape the ultimate hypercar of the future. These designers are across all the major continents of our planet. They gather right here, right now, to compete with one another with their own unique style. Every single one of them represents a unique vision and bold prospect from the new generation designers, redefining what the future of hypercars can be. Here, we witness designs that showcase stunningly flowy curves, each one of them flowing with elegance and grace. Then, we also see others with strikingly sharp lines that carries its own unique style with boldness and power. From conventional packagings that we could see on the cars currently, to innovative forms that redefine the word hypercar. Each design brings its distinctive character and pushes the boundary of automotive design today. Throughout all these exciting and revolutionary designs, only 3 of them will be eventually selected by our judge, the legendary designer Frank Stephenson, to enter the Vision SCC Global Final and eventually wins the grand prize. Welcome to the Vision SCC Global Final, and next, let me introduce you the winner of the Creative Award right now. Presenting Xu Haoli, the visionary designer who won the Creative Award of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition with his unique streamlined hypercar design. And now, with all the preparations, let's put our hands together and welcome legendary designer Frank Stephenson with his critique and analysis of this wonderful design.
So, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I wanted to thank everybody who has taken part in the competition for the Vision SCC, which is a hypercar for the future. And we've had many, many entries. It's been very difficult for me to reach a conclusion of the top 3, but I've managed to do it, and I'm very happy and very proud to present today the 3 winners. And I will get into a brief description and discussion about each one of the designs of the top 3. And I think the critique will be helpful in some ways, but also as a congratulatory experience for the hard work that everybody has put in to make this a big success from a design point of view. Briefly, I want to introduce myself to you. There may be some people who maybe don't know who I am and why I'm judging this competition. So, what I'd like to do is briefly give a very short introduction just to say who I am. My name is Frank Stephenson. I have been designing cars for over 30 years, 3 decades, more than 3 decades. And I began basically uh, not becoming a designer, obviously, uh, immediately. I had a career and a job before I went to design school. But around my early 20s, I decided that uh, to have a great life in the creative industry, I would love to combine my passion for art and my passion for automobiles and become a car designer, which is the dream today of many, many people around the world, of young people. And it is a dream profession. I can guarantee you that if you become a car designer, you will have a very happy, a very satisfactory life, and you will have a lot of pleasure in being able to see your designs on the road someday. So I studied design, started to study design when I was 22 years old, and I went to the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California in the 80s. I graduated after 4 years and I moved to Germany where I worked for 5 years with Ford Motor Company in their European design headquarters there. And I worked first and mostly on the Ford Escort Cosworth. And then after the 5 years with Ford, I moved to BMW South in Germany to Munich, where I worked on the design of the X5, the first SUV from BMW. And then I followed that with the design of the new Mini, which came out in 2000 and became the first generation of all the Minis that we see on the road today, the new Minis, of course. After that, I moved to Italy and worked as the head of design, the director of design for Ferrari and for Maserati. Uh, Two design jobs at the same time, very busy. But again, one of the best design jobs I think you could have as a designer. After that, I became the head of the parent company Fiat and was the design head for Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Lancia as well. And after that, mainly developing the Fiat 500, I moved to McLaren in England and became the design director for McLaren Automotive in 2008 and assembled a great team, a great studio, great design language, I think, and basically created in our studio the 12C, the P1, the 720S, the 570S, and all the derivatives of those cars. Then after that, I left in 2000 at the end of 2017 and created my own design studio here in London, England. And now we are creating basically the future of mobility with eVTOL aircraft, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which are the taxis of the sky for the future, actually next year. We're also working on sea-based projects, so boats and yachts. We're also working on cars, new cars. We're working also on products. So we have a very diverse portfolio of projects that we're working on now. All of them are cutting edge. They are mainly about bringing innovation to the world. And we're looking at projects that will influence the well-being, the lifestyles of a large segment of the public. So it's very important that we create great products with great design. Now, I'm here today again just to judge the competition. And of course, if anybody wants to stay in contact with me or whatever, remember our company's name is Frank Stephenson Design, and we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything that you can find on social media. And we have an education course, of course, for design sketching. So that's also available through our website, www.frankstephenson.com. So without much more explanation, I'd like to get into critiquing the designs, the top 3 designs of the cars that have been, the designs of the hypercars that have been submitted today. And so without further ado, Harry, if you could present the first car, which I will start with number 3, the 3rd place. And this is the car from Shuhao Lee. It's a very beautiful car, very futuristic. What I would like to say about all the cars that you will see today, the 3 cars that are winners, is they are all groundbreaking designs. They are cars that you would not imagine on the road today, but potentially could be on the road. Very hard to say in the design world because we never can calculate how fast or how far we move forward. But as designers, you always have to create something that brings something new to the segment, to repeat what we've already done. This is not what designers do. We have to think about the future. We have to think about things that could be better than what we have today. So it's very important that when we design cars, we introduce new technology, we introduce new aesthetics in the sense that whatever we produce from a technology point of view should be reflected in the design. We don't just design beautiful cars, we design cars that are dynamic. In other words, they are moving objects. Because they are moving objects, they have to perform well. Our cars have to be safe, they have to be comfortable, they have to have a high level of quality, and basically they have to make the life of the owner or of the passengers or of the driver, of course, much more enjoyable. And when I say enjoyable, the main thing about enjoyment is emotion. So we have to establish an emotional connection between the owner of the vehicle and the vehicle itself. We're not just a static product that you put and leave in the corner of the room. These are products that you will use every day. They are almost a necessity today. Of course, when we're speaking about hypercars, nobody actually needs a hypercar, which is obviously a very expensive um, vehicle. But hypercars are the technology leaders for the rest of the automotive world. In other words, when we produce new technology, it is very expensive and maybe perhaps too expensive to bring to the normal range of cars. So we introduce new technology, typically at the very high end of the segment. And as we continue to use it more and more, the prices will come down, and eventually the technology that was put into the very expensive car will eventually come down into the normal price cars. So this is the way we introduce future technology most of the time, which means not just design, but also the materials and the power trades, as well as dynamic elements of the car like suspension and things like this. So Shuhao Lee has done a very good job on introducing a design that is quite radical in many ways. Uh, Something that if you saw this on the road today, you would obviously stop and probably need to lift your jaw up because it is, like we say, jaw dropping. There are a lot of things on this car that I have never seen before. At the same time, he's done it in a uh, very proportional way. In other words, the balance of the car is very professional. I would say it looks like the car could potentially be produced, but like any new design, there are questions that the engineers would need to ask and say, I'm not sure if this is actually possible to do. And that is a great response from an engineer, because the designer wants to always introduce things that have never been done before, which obviously will make the job hard for the engineer. That is the challenge, is to introduce technology, design, ideas that we haven't seen before. And as you can see by his design here, as he states, it's probably a very long vehicle with low drag. The longer a vehicle is, the more we can control the airflow over the surfaces and make the air do what we would like the air to do. All cars have to penetrate the air. And if you have a hypercar, obviously it's a very fast vehicle. So you need to consider aerodynamics. And I think he has done that very well here. He hasn't gone to the point of being absolutely impossible to build or too much like science fiction. It's a very believable design, yet there are a lot of challenges on this vehicle for the engineers to make it work. As you can see, one of the features of the car that is absolutely obvious and different is the covered wheels in the rear of the car. That is an excellent design feature that we have lost in today's world, at least. We used to do it in the past. And you can imagine that covering the rear wheels can only be a good thing for aerodynamics, because we're not creating turbulence from the rotating wheels. We're covering the rear part of the car with a smooth surface that allows the air to flow smoothly over the surface, as well as incorporating a side intake on the front of the rear wheel. Now, this side intake can have a lot of different usages. Perhaps it's to cool the to enter the radiator to cool the air. Perhaps it's to direct air to a certain part of the car in the rear. Perhaps it's to put air underneath the car at the rear to suck the car down to the road. A lot of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be an engine intake uh, ducting. Who knows? I'm not sure yet. I don't think he's stated which type of propulsion it has. For example, if it's a hydrogen powered car, if it's electric, it probably would not need some type of intake like that. But if it has a usage, for example, for brake disc cooling, this would be an excellent position for it. But again, the car, it has, although it's in white, and white is perhaps not the best color for any car, because it tends to look like what we call a industrial product, like something you would find in your kitchen, like a washing machine or a refrigerator. White is a very almost heavy color for a car, and it still looks like it has a lot of shape, and a lot of shape will always create light and dark. So you would have a lot of contrast, even though it doesn't look like it here. The sinuous shapes, the sensual shapes over the front, where it goes over the front fender, dives down, goes cleanly across the bonnet or the hood to the other side without any fuss, without any uh, over design. That's a very beautiful shape. It's not going to age quickly. It's going to have a long lasting feel to it. Visibility, I think, with the type of wraparound canopy, windscreen, almost like a jet fighter, for example. I think that's going to give the passenger and the driver a lot of visibility, so that will always feel comfortable. Uh, if you don't offer great visibility to the driver, to the passenger, you would give them almost a claustrophobic feel. So that's never a good thing. You want to have great visibility, and I think he's done a great job with the what we call the glazing, the glass area, the visible area. Again, if you look at the airflow of the car as it comes in underneath in the area of the front of the car, down below the area we call the splitter, it penetrates underneath there, has perhaps an airflow requirement or aerodynamic requirement or even a cooling requirement. But you can see the tire on the far side, which means that the airflow is being considered. He's done a great job considering that so that the air comes underneath the front bumper or the front hood or the front bonnet, up over the hood, straight over the windscreen, and then he can control that air off to the side, over the fenders, and rearwards. It's got a very believable airflow, almost like uh, not being aggressive or against what the wind would want to do. Whenever you go against what the wind wants to do, you're creating drag. And this has a very sensual profile or shape that allows the wind to flow naturally towards the rear. So in that sense, I think the
It's
car
10 minutes, Frank.
aerodynamically, thanks, Harry. I think in that sense, aerodynamically, this would be a great car with a great low CD, perhaps even under 0.20. The downforce would be very good on this car because you can see how low the car is sitting. The body of the car is very close to the ground. That means that very little air will come underneath the car. And whatever air does come underneath the car will, as it moves to the rear, and I would imagine underneath the car at the back, it would have something that we call a venturi effect, which means that the air will then expand, flow upwards underneath the rear car very quickly before it exits behind the car. And that opening or that flow, upward flow of the air will create a pressure area that will actually suck the car down to the road. So that is a very uh, clever solution, is to consider how the air works not only on the top of the car but underneath the car. Now, what also is very interesting here is the absence of any headlights on the car. So that means that perhaps the headlights are there and they shine through the body. So you can do that. It's dependent on the material you're using. If you turn on the headlights, they shine through the material. They're perhaps laser or something even more advanced than laser light technology. We started, of course, with halogens. We moved to xenon, then we moved to LED headlights, and then OLED, organic light emitting diodes. Now we're into laser technology, and perhaps this is the next stage after laser technology. Very interesting. No windscreen wipers, so I would imagine this has some type of technology on the glass coating that would allow the glass to never form any dirt particles or any dust particles or water drops. It would have its own self-cleaning coating that would not require any windscreen wipers, which is fantastic. Also, I don't see any cut lines for the door, so that is quite interesting. I would be uh, very curious to know how you get into the car without any visible cut lines for the doors. You do need cut lines on the car because otherwise you have no way of getting into the car. Perhaps the glass area moves, but then you have to lift your legs up very high. It's perhaps uncomfortable to get into the car that way, but I'm sure he has a solution worked out. But again, I think this is a great design, very worthy of being the third place design. I would be very proud if I was the designer of this car. So congratulations. I think you've done a wonderful job on this design.
What a wonderful design, Frank! And let's give our congratulations to Xiaohao Li again, who secured this one and only Creative Award. For those who are watching, this is only the beginning of our competition, and we still have 2 more finalists to go. Biomimicry is always one of the best approaches in terms of design. And this became more obvious when we look at Frank's masterpieces, that utilizes biomimicry up to the very best level. Now, it is the time for us to reveal the designer who fought himself the Brilliance Award of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition. Introducing Summer, with its futuristic hypercar design XJ that won the one and only Brilliance Award. And now, let's bring the stage back to Frank again and see what are his thoughts on this beautiful machine.
The second place design is from Summer. Now, Summer has produced a design that is even more futuristic than the last one. This one looks very extreme, something like you would imagine being perhaps even in a science fiction film. It is very nice in the sense that it's pushing the limits of what I would imagine today to be possible. I almost think that this car is with today's technology perhaps not able to be built in the same way that Summer is showing here. But this is great because Summer's design, again, is looking at what the next level of hypercar design could be, or even design language in general for automobiles. If you could present it, show it, Harry, that would be great. Now, as you can see here, this design is what I would call very extreme. And for that reason, I like it because it is showing a fresh way of thinking. It doesn't look like the car was produced by a machine. It looks, in fact, like it was actually grown out of material, maybe 3D printed in a laboratory to construct it in such a way that this would actually be possible. It's a new look on mobile objects or mobility objects. It's a new way of looking at how a car could perhaps be in the future. Many things on this car that I see that I've never seen before. Obviously, if we look at it from different angles, it has different feelings, but in general, it's very cohesive as a design. You can see that it's almost natural in a certain way in its design. It's quite organic, as I said before. But what you see is something that basically flows. There's a flowing movement to it, a flowing surface development to it from the front all the way to the back. If you could show some other images, Harry, of this, I'll try to explain what makes it so unusual. So you see on this car, typically we have four wheels, of course. That's the only thing I think if you looked at this as an image, you would know that it's a car. For the rest of it, it looks very much like a sculpture, something that was actually sculpted perhaps by the wind or by erosion or some type of shape that basically has been around for a long time and has slowly been molded into this shape here. I don't know exactly how the visibility would work on this car, being that it is one solid color all the way throughout. But again, that is just a question of materials. We have materials that are transparent, or at least allow you to see from inside out, but don't allow you to see from outside in. That's used quite a bit in architecture, in the sense that some buildings, when you look at them from outside, they may have all glass that is maybe bronze in color, maybe chromatic, highly chromatic in their surface, so that the reflections are of what is in the surrounding area. So you can still look outwards from inside the building. And I think this is pretty much the same technology of coating. Otherwise, it's something perhaps that you could say is actually maybe a very high level of autonomous vehicle where you have extreme privacy and you cannot see outside, but the vehicle is autonomously driven, so it knows the way. You don't need to actually drive the car. But if it's a hypercar, I would say that the joy of a hypercar is not so much in the performance, but in the actual ability to experience driving a vehicle, to actually be in control of the vehicle. Vehicles that drive you or that are more in control than the driver are perhaps best used for urban transport or subway, uh, metro, subway systems that basically you're just a passenger. And I think a lot of the enthusiasm, a lot of the passion for hypercars comes from actually being the driver, the actual driver, not autonomously driven. So, in that sense, I would almost imagine that Summer is imagining or creating something where the visibility is there. It's just not the normal way we would expect to see glass and then a separate body to the vehicle. Again, the car is sitting very, very low, which could perhaps mean that the roads in the future are ultra smooth, no bumps, or it would have a lifting system that allows you to raise the car once you get going or once you're underway, or if you come to a sleeping policeman or a speed bump, as we say, that would perhaps allow you to raise the car. But I would imagine this car, the way it's designed and for the age that it was probably be meant for, which is probably the late 2030s, early 2040s, perhaps you could have roads that are absolutely perfect and paved for like glass, so which is the surface that she has on here anyways. You can see that it's almost sitting on I don't know, a thin sheet of glass, thick sheet of glass, perhaps even, but it's very low for that sense. So you don't want to have any bumps in the road. Um, Again, in terms of lighting, this is perhaps also pushing new technology forward. Uh, in today's world, we're not allowed to put the headlights so low like you see them here, but that is probably something in the future that will change, and headlight projection or headlamp heights or headlight heights could be probably in different positions on the vehicle. We're allowed to put them higher up, lower down. Perhaps they get damaged, but in a world where this car would belong, it's perhaps allowed to be that low. Uh, Things like that I would suggest, Summer, for example, is to imagine that you would absolutely need a car that would be driving in this position, this height, to be absolutely non it would not have suspension that it would allow it to go up and down. Because, for example, as you can see in the image on the left, the wheel is turning to the right, and there's very little clearance above the tire to the fender cutout, to the wheel cutout. That would mean that if you were turning to the right or to the left and you hit a bump in the road, would absolutely, if you had suspension, you would absolutely destroy the fender. So you need to be sure that when you do this, you've already thought out that this is actually something you've thought about being able to prevent or to not have to worry about. So that is one of the things that you have to be aware of. This word we have in the automotive design language called, or engineering language called jounce, Jounce. That's the movement of the wheel that goes up and down. And of course, if you're turning, like I said, you don't want it to be hitting anything. It has to be able to go up and down without touching any of the body. Again, from a side view, it's beautiful. It's very, very voluptuous, very sensual. And the rear end, I like very much as well. There's a lot of open spaces within the vehicle design, much like carved out by the airflow. And you can see the extremely long rear diffuser on the bottom of the car in the rear, which is fantastic because when you design diffusers like that, you know what you're talking about, because diffusers, cars like this, which travel at such high speeds, and I would imagine in the future, with the type of accident prevention uh, systems that we will have, you could probably drive very close to the car in front of you, perhaps even, 400, 500 kilometers an hour, roughly 300 miles an hour. And your accident prevention systems will keep you from running into the car in front of you if it breaks, for example, smart technology, of course. But that will allow us to have perhaps faster moving traffic on the roads to accommodate, ever increasing numbers of vehicles that we have on the roads like we do today. So that's one of the things I think that will allow fast cars to be even faster and to travel much closer together. And again, if you're going to go at that speed, you need cars to be glued to the road, as we say. The rear light system that you show here, Summer, I wouldn't say that's modern technology. We have rear taillights like that today. And so, if anything, I would push the limits of the lighting technology that you show in the front and in the back here, because they do look a little bit standard or not as advanced, let's say, as the rest of the car. And another thing, again, that I would perhaps modernize a bit more are the wheel designs, or is the wheel design of the vehicle. I think in the future, we will have wheels that look just as advanced as this car. In other words, they will look like they're grown and not manufactured. Imagine, for example, a root system of a tree being the spokes of the tires here, where the spokes are basically uh, almost a chaotic design. You don't expect roots of a tree to be absolutely straight. They go in many different directions, and that's what gives them the inherent strength to a tree. So we have wheels to give strength uh, and be lightweight, of course. So I think a different type of design for the wheels would be very useful here on your design, because it would allow you to have something, like I said, as advanced as the body surfacing that you have here. So congratulations again, Summer. I think this design is very, very worthy of being the second or the runner-up prize winner. You have some great sketches here. For example, I am not a lover of black backgrounds. I talk about that quite a bit when I speak with other designers. I know it offers high contrast, but it is very fake. We rarely see cars in the dark, in other words, like having a black background with white lines, and that feels very unnatural. Designers don't have to go over the top when they're trying to do a sketch. Uh, Sketches are done as a thought process. You're doing a sketch to take an idea out of your mind and for you to judge it. Many sketches are what we call quick and dirty. In other words, you're not worried about presenting the sketches to anybody. They're for you to think out the design before you actually go further with the design process. So I would never go to the effort of switching to a black and white reversal like you have here. You probably did this as black lines on white paper. My suggestion would be leave it like that. It's much more natural. It's much more believable. It's less effort. It's less trying too hard. Black backgrounds on a like this really make the car look. I don't like it. I think black ballpoint sketches on white paper are perhaps the ideal way to go, truthfully and honestly. As a designer, you don't want to play games when you're a designer. You just need to communicate the idea. Again, great work here showing surface development. Summer, you've done a very good job of experimenting with different shapes and coming up with something that works very well. There's a lot of tension, a lot of muscle in your design, a lot of shapes that show the minimalism of a very athletic body, but with the muscles in the right areas. So you've done a great job, and congratulations again, Summer, on the runner-up prize.
What a wonderful design, Frank. Thank you for your critique and analysis towards this absolutely beautiful machine. Now, before we reveal the winner of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition, there is one last exciting announcement we are about to make. For such a long time, the Vision SCC community is always one of our top priorities among all. Like I said before, it is your engagement that leads us where we are today and support us through this incredible journey. Therefore, in return for this favor, we have specially established the Excellence Award of the Vision SCC, where the winner is not selected by our judge, but by every single one of you to show your dedication and support towards your favorite design. So with all the dedications, let's unveil the winner of the Excellence Award of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition right now. Introducing Vision SCC Rocha, the one and only hypercar designed by Alfredo Rocha that secured more than 200 votes all around the world. Now, it is the pinnacle of excitement of our competition. Months of preparations and concentrates together, it is the apex moment of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition, and it is a moment for us to unveil the designer who vanquished the first place and won the ultimate prize of Apex Award. We are so excited to share this wonderful moment with you, and we want to appreciate all the hard work done by every single one of you who participated in such an event. To our winners, congratulations to you all. And to those who didn't win this time, this is just the beginning of the incredible journey ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the apex among all the hypercar designs, the winner of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition. Introducing the Vision SCC Origin Heart Hypersport Vision, a superb design by Jin Cheng Tian that conquered the apex of the Vision SCC Global Design Competition. Again, let's give the stage back to Frank for his final analysis on this masterpiece.
Yes, so the winner of this contest for Vision SCC is Jin Cheng, and Jin Cheng has produced the Origin Heart, which is immediately when I saw this design, I knew it would be very hard to produce something that would win over Jin Cheng's design, because Jin Cheng's design does something that is very hard to do in the car design world. But when you have it, you have a winner. What Jin Cheng has done is produce a design that is instantly desirable. It's not something you've seen before. It brings innovation in many different ways. He has a very good way of showing the car in the optimal angles and perspectives to give you a feeling of what the car looks like from different viewing area positions. And he's done a lot of work because he's also worked very hard on the interior of the vehicle as well to show what the interior of this vehicle could look like. And he's done it also in a way where the exterior and the interior are one. In other words, they belong to the same design language. Many times we have in the design world, especially in cars, a problem where not a problem, but a juxtaposition almost, where the designer of the exterior and the designer of the interior have not communicated. Each one has done what they think is right, and they have created a design where the interior is much different in its feeling to the exterior. That's not to say it's bad, it's just that it doesn't feel like it's one vehicle. So Jin Cheng has designed an interior that goes very well with the exterior. Again, it's a very highly emotional, highly desirable, highly innovative, a lot of thinking for airflow and what we call active aerodynamics. Uh, Beautiful shapes, beautiful proportions, something, I guess, as I said earlier, that when you see it, you want it. And of course, it's not going to be cheap, but if you're willing to sell everything you have, you could have a vehicle like this. I'm sure it's not going to be a car for everybody, but it is a car that makes you dream and wants makes you want to have it one day, to aspire to it. It's an aspirational type of design. So Harry, if you could please show it. So we're looking at something. I know it looks very radical again, but you can see immediately that this car has what we call the, and I don't like the expression, so sorry for saying it, but it does have the wow factor. Now, what is the wow factor? The wow factor cannot be defined. It has to make you just feel like something when you look at it, you're surprised, but in a very positive way. The problem with a lot of cars when you get surprised is that your body rejects it, or your body says, wait, I need time to adjust to see in this car. I need to wait a few months or a few weeks or whatever to see what I really think about this vehicle. That is not good design. When you have to wait to to see how you feel about a car, I don't think it's a successful design. You have to feel an attraction to the design immediately, or else it's not really the design that you really like. So it's what we call love at first sight. So again, it's a personal thing. There will be people who look at this and say, okay, I don't like it. But at the same time, it is not a normal car. It's not generic. It's perhaps polarizing also. Perhaps we could say 50% of the public like it, 50% don't like it. What I like about it is that it feels like it's a moving proportion. In other words, the car does not just look static, like it's parked. This shape, you can imagine it going down the road. It's parked here, but it looks like it wants to move forward. There's a there's an emphasis on the design that makes you understand which way it's going, and when it does go, it's really going. So there's a feeling of, like I said, dynamism, moving, dynamic shapes. The wheels are big. We have to be careful that we don't make our wheels too big and out of proportion to the rest of the car. We have a trend nowadays where the wheels are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think we've pretty much reached a limit to the size of the wheels, because after a certain size, it's not that the look is strange, it's that the ride is very uncomfortable. So with a normal car, perhaps the size of the wheels are reaching the limits like we see here in this design here. But he's done a great job on thinking about airflow, about making wheels that look quite radical, at least as radical as the car itself. And if we look at some of the other images, you'll start to see how color works with the car, the graphic breakups, the volumes. If you could move on to a couple other images here. So what I really like about his work here is this page right here. This is almost a page that makes you think it's a winner, at least for me, because the beautiful images that we produce of cars are images that artists make. In other words, the designer is in this sketch here where he's experimenting, he's drawing his ideas, he's extracting the creativity from his mind, not sure exactly what the end product is going to look like, But the sketch phase, like what we see here, is extremely important. Extremely important. If you want to become a designer, this is the type of sketch, this is the type of page that will get you the job in the industry. Not so much the finished renderings, because those typically are done in Photoshop with the aid of a lot of programs, and perhaps he's used a little bit of Photoshop here, but a lot of it comes down to the actual sketching, sometimes even the imperfections that you produce in a sketch, which are thinking lines. In other words, every line is not perfect on the sketch, but you're thinking, you're creating a development process that is helping you to discover what is the ultimate design for your vehicle. So, like I said earlier on, quick and dirty sketches, this is kind of like that. And I don't mean dirty in the dirty sense like that. I mean that they're uh, a path of discovery, as we call it. You're not putting down just one line and saying that's exactly it. You're experimenting as you draw. So again, please look at his sketch here and try to become a designer like he's showing here. This is again, the most important things to have in your portfolio. The ability to sketch cars very well, very quickly, and communicating the idea very clearly like he has done here. So congratulations, A plus on this type of slide here, this type of sketch. Then as we move on, when we have the final idea, you can start to get a little bit more artistic, and you can start to show the car pretty much in more artistic ways, which give more emotion perhaps to your boss to look at it. And perhaps your boss is uh of course he's probably a designer, but we're talking about bosses like from the executive level who are perhaps not designers and don't understand, let's call them the quick and dirty sketches. They want to see what the finished product could look like. So again, this stage here gets closer and closer to what the car perhaps might look like in reality. You still have to use your imagination, but again, you can see how he's really pushing the form on this car, doing things that are very radical. And that's great, because the radical thinking is what they pay you for as a designer. Nobody wants a designer who just repeats what has already been done in the past. That is not a designer. That is an artist who copies what has been done in the past. We need designers to think fresh, have great ideas, new ideas, and above all, attractive ideas that work hand in hand with the purpose of the vehicle, the performance of the vehicle. In other words, this would not be your ideal city car. And I would not vote for this if it was supposed to be a city car, because it looks like an extreme hypercar, which is what the Vision SCC was supposed to be. So he's met the target. But if you're designing a car, for example, for the city, you have to think of visibility, size, packaging, economy, sustainability, many of the factors that don't come into question when you speak about the Vision SCC. So again, he's nailed the target. He's done very well on addressing the brief, and you can see in some of the other images, as you can see here, the car starts to become something that almost looks like a beautiful race car. Now, race cars are not designed to be beautiful. They're designed to win, obviously, and whatever it takes to win is the objective. But when you're designing a road car, where people have to pay money for this product and they have to own it, then beauty does come into question, and you have to think about the aesthetics of the vehicle. I think he's done a very good job here of combining a technical side as well as a sensual or an aesthetic side to it. So almost as if the top half is aesthetically driven, albeit aerodynamic as well, but the darker areas underneath suddenly become the technical shapes, the shapes that have to be almost mechanical in certain ways to work with the wind. In other words, this car probably has what we call active aerodynamics, which means that it's shape changing. In other words, you don't always have, for example, a wing or even say a spoiler in the rear that is always out there because you don't need it at different speeds. At high speeds, of course, that's where it comes into play or into effect. But some of the areas of the car can change shape according to the needs or the necessity or the requirements at certain speeds. Again, here you can just start to see how he's had fun with his shape. Again, he puts soft organic volume, puts the way he's talking about the wheels, that they're attached on the form of the car, part of the car. There's a lot of sensual form development on this car. He's doing what we call a shrink wrap. You can see how the shape basically follows the component. So, for example, over the front wheels, the shape of the front wheels doesn't continue all the way across because there's nothing there. So just shrink wrap, suck the surface down to the absolute minimum. What you will get there is an added benefit of less weight, less overall weight because you're using less material. And again, yeah, just you can see here the graphic breakups work, the active aerodynamics of the wings in the back, the diffuser there. The car here probably today would never ever be produced simply because it would be pushing the limits too far. Perhaps if then it would be a track car just meant for running on racetracks for fun for people who can afford this type of vehicle. But again, it's introducing something very fresh, something very attractive, uh, very extreme. And I think for that reason, he's done a great job. If we move on to the next sketch, Harry, you'll see, I think, the interior development as well. Now you can see how he has been thinking about what the passenger feeling inside of the vehicle would be like. Now you can see from the side view, he's considered the driving position and the visibility. You can see that he has an extreme driver's position, much like in a Formula One car, where basically you're sitting in a very, let's call it an enclosed cockpit or pocket, as he describes it. So there's minimal waste of space, minimal use of space to enclose or involve the driver. There's not a lot of complications in a car like this. In a car like this, where you're traveling at high speed, you don't want to have a lot of things to do because that's distracting. You want to be driving the car with minimal distractions, and that is the feeling I get with this car here. There's not a lot of buttons to push. There's not a lot of gauges to distract your eyesight. You're just in this vehicle. You have an optimal driving position. The package is tight and enclosed. You're looking forward. You can gauge the position of the front wheels because they're right there in front of you. You can look straight down onto the road. It's right in front of you. I think it would be extremely fun to drive a car like this at high speed, obviously, perhaps on a track. Now, as you see, he's progressed the sketches, the rough sketches into something a little bit more definitive where you can see how minimal the interior is, which is a good thing. But it provides all the basic information. He has the yoke steering wheel, the digital display right in front of him, which looks like the Nürburgring, perhaps. But anyways, the track right in front of him, probably all the information, the uh, display probably has all the information he needs right in front of him. The user experience must be very, very high. And the canopy on the top right, you can see how it opens and allows him to get inside uh, and ready to drive the car and use it and extract its from it. So great job. I think this is definitely worthy of being the first place uh, finisher. And again, I'm not sure if it is perhaps the most buildable car the easiest to build, but at the same time, doesn't have to be when you're pushing the limits of conceptual design, coming up with new ideas. Great engineers will always find a way to make your vehicle work. Obviously, you as a designer have to be there to accept the compromises or not accept the compromises, but to work with engineers that are as good as you as a designer. And this is the kind of magic that you can produce as a designer for the real world.
Thank you, Frank, for your wonderful review on this masterpiece. We would like to express our deepest gratitude for joining us and creating this magnificent festival of automotive design. Frank, it has been an honor to have you here with us. We would like to appreciate American Collection for your dedication and support, and all the designers who pour your effort and hard works. What a wonderful journey. After today's Vision SCC Global Final, we will formally launch the charity event of Design for Devotion, where we will auction the NFTs of the innovative designs done by each finalist and donate all the proceeds to support autism research. For those who are watching, this is not the end of our competition. Please follow up to our social media channels on worldwide platforms for future information regarding the charitable auction and the other events. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.